Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here. I hope you are all ready to be judged because I am going to be responding to a bunch of unpopular opinions that you lot submitted about The Sims. Starting off with a hot take of worlds should come in separate world packs. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say we need more different pack types and more money to be spent on this game. It would make sense that all packs kind of work within all worlds. However, I do think that they wouldn't give us those worlds for free. They would not be part of an update, and so therefore it would be an additional cost to players, which I really don't think people would be happy about. As recently as Lovestruck, I don't think we really needed a new world. I think they could have given us the systems working flawlessly. But that's also not me saying that we don't need Latin-inspired worlds, because we very much do. We need more Latin-inspired worlds. We need worlds inspired by Africa. Like, there is so much still to be done in terms of like representation, diversity, and cultures where it comes to geographical location. I do think this would maybe allow for more of that diversity, but at the end of the day, it's still paying for that diversity. This one is certainly an unpopular opinion because it's actually supportive of kits, but it's the best type of content we're getting create a sim and build and buy mode wise. Items are always noticeably higher quality than expansion stuff pack items, and overall trendier since they can focus on more niche items within the kits. Now, I will hold my hands up and say I have said this before. I do think that the kit caliber is very much up there. Not really for build and buy mode. Honestly, I personally have been disappointed by a lot of the build and buy mode kits. Create a sim is my comfort space in the game. I absolutely love Create a Sim, and I do think that a lot of the assets that come in kits for Create a Sim are much better quality. They can also really be trendy because they're more frequent, and obviously they're smaller, so it means that they can be more on trend because they push them out at a faster rate. Still don't really agree with the price point of kits. I've had this discussion many a time. I'm not going to get into it right now of why I don't really agree with the price of kits, but I do agree that they are a higher quality than some of the assets that we have received in bigger packs. Sims 4 is a good game and in many aspects is better than the previous entries. You knew you were being cheeky with this one. That little emoji that you used, you should have just used the monkey with hands over the eyes. You should have gone full Tyler Oakley, because this is an unpopular one. Sims 4, I don't think I've ever heard good game and The Sims 4 in the same sentence before this right here. I do think in a lot of aspects it is better than predecessors, but you have to keep in mind those predecessors came out in 2000, 2004, 2008. So they definitely had limitations of the time that they were created. I think there is good and bad in every Sims game. I'm not going to be out here defending Sims 4 till the end of the earth, because personally I think there are major areas where that game could be so much better, and I want it to be better purely for my own enjoyment. Do I still enjoy the game? Do I still pretty much play it every day? Yeah, absolutely. Two things can be true at one time. I love the details, I love the storytelling that you can craft in The Sims 3. However, I really don't like the graphics of The Sims 3, and I really don't like the bugs and the optimization of The Sims 3. The Sims 2 I adore. Like, don't get me wrong, I do feel like I have rose-tinted glasses on it because it was my favorite at the time, and it probably is still like up there as my favorite Sims game. However, I absolutely hate that time stands still when you go to a community lot and then you come home and your Sim's just knackered, and then you've wasted what feels like you've wasted your entire day because you had to go to a community lot. I know these are opinions and I'm not trying to like sway anyone's opinions when I do these videos, but I think everyone is like fair to have their opinion of what their favorite or not favorite Sims game is. I think the only aspects where Sims 4 like absolutely outshines the other games for me personally is definitely when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Way better than any past Sims game. I also think supernaturals are much better in The Sims 4 than they have been in any game. I much prefer the graphics of The Sims 4 and actually Create a Sim. Just like the way that Create a Sim works. That's my unpopular opinion, and trust me, I have many of them. The Sims team is not listed listening to us in what we want. They gave us eyelashes that god awful. Don't get me started on the Mac collab. I think this is the first one where I'm personally gonna disagree with this. I actually think in a lot of aspects, the Sims team have been doing a much better job of kind of listening to what Simmers want for this game. A lot of Simmers have said they want more depth in relationships when it comes to The Sims 4. They want a lot more consequence. Even just with the surveys that we got, like what, back in like 2019, if you go back and look at those surveys and then look at the packs and the themes and the kind of things that they have introduced recently, they have ticked a lot of those boxes. I honestly kind of wish they did do like surveys more frequently. I think we had the golden period in like 2019, 2020, where it really felt like they were shifting The Sims 4 to really like take feedback from the community and be like, these are what our players are wanting to see. Let's introduce it to them. Don't get me wrong, I'm not defending eyelashes. I do not think they are good whatsoever. I kind of wish they had just held off on them. I don't know if that's the only way that they could have possibly gotten them to work, but I have kept the custom content eyelashes in my game. I do still wish, however, there was more of an open communication about like very serious bugs and errors and fixes, how long those things are actually going to take to be implemented. I know those things can change when it comes to game development, but we even saw it recently with like the 123 error fix. You could see that the Answers HQ team were working on it and they were asking for feedback, but I think that the main channels should also be like, we are continuously working on this. Also, I still absolutely think that they have diversified the main channels far too much. There are too many different places where you can get Sims news from. I definitely don't think we can call this one an unpopular opinion. I feel many a person has this opinion, but Sims 1 and 2 should be remade rather than making more Sims 4 packs. I do think Sims 1 and Sims 2 should be freely available. I think they should be released somewhere. I know that they are basically dead in terms of like fixes, so it's kind of, I think, probably hard for them to officially release them because there's not going to be any support. And I think people have got so used to The Sims 4 being a live service game where you can kind of hopefully expect bug fixes down the line, and if you have issues, there is a dedicated place to go to kind of find how to potentially solve those issues. And with games that are already dead and there's no support for, I do think that's a little bit harder because if people run into issues, they're probably gonna want to continue to hold EA accountable, but it's like, how can you hold someone accountable for a game that came out in 2004? You know, like The Sims 2, I have it installed. I have the Ultimate Collector's Edition, and you have to go through hoops to get that to work on Windows 10 and 11. I kind of wish that they would release them as like a stable kind of game, or as stable as they could possibly be, so that people do have easier access. Obviously, they are accessible right now. I'm not really here for remakes. Honestly, I think remakes are ruining the earth right now. But who am I kidding? I, of course, would love to be able to dive into The Sims 1 and just like play it for fun. Lack of gameplay when you own every DLC. Definitely with kids. Why do we need the same craft table, dollhouse, or toy box? It feels like the game is for designing and not gameplay. 100% Sims 4 is absolutely still lacking when it comes to children. I will be the first one to admit that. I think even the lack of like kids room and decor is getting to a point where I'm struggling to like kind of diversify rooms. Like a lot of it feels the same. The Sims 4 takes a lot of imagination, and don't get me wrong, I am a person who prides themselves on my imagination. I actually do still enjoy this game, I think, because I still have stories to tell. I still have ideas of how to play this game, but I think where that imagination is halted and where it feels like things are becoming stale is because the game doesn't allow you to like run with those ideas to its fullest potential because of its limitations. Usually to make kids interesting for myself, I give them a little hobby that they're into. So I'll find something where there's like a lot of objects in The Sims 4 that kind of replicate that hobby, be it space, void critters, someone who's super into sports or video games. However, there isn't much gameplay to then back those hobbies, especially especially for children, that I find really, really sad. They don't have coloring books that they can do of like their hobbies. There's no outside games for them to play. They can't really interact with each other all that much. Everything is very samey because we keep getting the same repeated assets. But these are things that should be introduced with like every expansion. Like we should be getting new stuff that relates to that expansion's theme for children to do. I'll say it forever, no height slider. Absolutely an unpopular opinion. I feel like so many people want, if not a full-on like height slider to change the heights of Sims like every single time you create them, at least for teenagers to be made a little bit shorter. I don't personally think that's ever going to happen. I think we have too many clothes available for teenagers right now. Their exoskeleton is basically the exact same. Exoskeleton? Is that the right word? Their skeleton in the game is exactly the same as like young adults and above, which is why all of the clothes fit on them. I think it would be a lot of rework to make teens shorter, but I'm with you on the no height slider. I have downloaded mods and I personally just, one, doesn't really affect me all that deeply. I kind of prefer that I don't have to like play around with that, and I also think it would knock out so many interactions. The animations would be so funky and they'd get so many more like bug reports and things of that nature with like Sims lips not lining up when they kiss, or people like glitching into one another, Sims just like not doing what you expect in an interaction. I personally cannot be bothered with that. The lesbians are absolutely going to kill me for that one. Sorry for not wanting height differences in my game. Sorry for not giving you that representation. We need more low technology items in this game. A landline phone, newspapers, writing letters, grocery shopping, not through a delivery service, but actual physical place. I want more chores, please. Ironing clothes, making beds, dusting rugs, more domestic labors. Honestly, I really miss a landline phone. I will say I get so annoyed by mobiles in the game. I hate how many notifications your mobile can get. I hate that there's like no way to turn it off. Like I do wish that you could step away from technology. You can write a love letter as an email on a computer, but I don't think you can actually like write a love letter as in actual like write it down. Journaling, I think, could be so much better in the game that was introduced with Parenthood. It's one of my favorite things to do, but it's not very good. It's not very in-depth. There are mods that do it way better than the game ever could. I'm still forever salty that they didn't give us video cameras in Growing Together so that we could make our own like family videos. And the thing is, that's not even out of date. Like people vlog. More chores, I agree and disagree with. I am Laundry Day's #1 hater. I really didn't like the fact that Laundry Day won the first community vote. I like the stuff that came with Laundry Day. I absolutely hate laundry actually within the game unless I am using it to constantly start fires. Yes, I am an agent of chaos. Chores are one of those things where if it's opt-in, I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. If I don't have to do laundry, then yay for me. I'm not really about like watching my sim sit and do the most mundane things that I can think of. Like I would rather be ironing my own clothes and being productive in that way than sat watching my sim do it. I do actually miss making beds. I love that little like morning routine of your sim waking up. The only reason I think I want more chores within the game is so that we could introduce a chore system for children. I don't want an open world. I like the open neighborhoods more. They feel way more controllable and alive to me. It's much easier to tell stories and feel connected with a community when it's focused in a smaller area. I actually agree with this one. I don't want to say that one out loud. That's an inside thought that should be kept inside my own brain because I know people are not fans of this. A lot of people think that The Sims 4 went back over The Sims 3 because it didn't have an open world. I actually prefer the feel of the neighborhoods. Just like you, I agree that they feel way more alive. There's more Sims like bounding around those neighborhoods. Whenever you go to a community lot, it definitely feels like there's way more Sims there. The Sims 3 did actually try and fix that with like the hotspots that were introduced in Sims 3 Late Night, but predominantly when you travel to a community lot in The Sims 3, there will be much less Sims than you are used to seeing in The Sims 4. I just wish that the neighborhoods were a bit more open. I wish that there wasn't a loading screen between people's houses. Get Together isn't as good as everyone says it is. Yes, the club system is nice, but that aside, I find it really boring. Ooh, yikes. I got so many of these and I have to defend the honor of Get Together. It is one of my favorite packs. Again, I'm not here to change anyone's opinions. Even when people ask me like, is this pack worth it? Should I buy this pack? What pack do you think I should buy on sale? It's like, you know what? Everyone plays this game differently. Everyone is going to have different opinions of different packs. I do think Get Together is underrated. People say it's overrated. I could not disagree more. I just don't think people are using the club system to like the best of its abilities. I have forever wanted to make a video where I talk about the club system, talk about what type of clubs you can make, what kind of activities you can get up to. I use it an awful lot when I want to celebrate like a certain thing with a sim, like a certain milestone. Like I do hen and stag do's an awful lot. If you've seen any of like my wedding stories video, the club system is so robust, but that's not the only thing about Get Together. For one, the world is one of the biggest worlds that we have ever gotten. It came with DJing as a hobby, which I absolutely love DJing. I think that also works really, really well if you have Get Famous and you want to be like a producer. It also came with cafes. I hang out in cafes all the time. I absolutely love them. The foosball table, it came with a brand new game in Don't Wake the Llama, arcade machines. Then there's also the parties where people can invite you to the bluffs or the ruins. I just think it's overall a really, really good pack. I think it's actually one of the biggest packs that we have. Seasons is not a good expansion pack. It doesn't really add meaningful gameplay related to it. You are just paying $40 whole just for the trees in the background to change colors. Weird thing is, I also don't care about it being in the base game. I personally would like weather systems in the base game of like future iterations of The Sims. I have kind of changed my opinion on that over the years. I don't think it necessarily needs a whole pack dedicated to it. I think what was holding me onto that was the fact that I absolutely adore The Sims 3 seasons. Sims 4 cannot hold a candle to The Sims 3. The festivals that they had, it really felt like you were getting out there. You could pick pumpkins with your family in autumn. You could go to the spooky house. You could do food eating competitions. You could get your face painted like seasonally. I do really like holidays in The Sims 4 seasons. I think that is a great thing. Personally, I don't think seasons is as good as a lot of people think it is. I just don't think there was enough outside of like the actual seasonal system in The Sims 4 to make it feel as much of an expansion as previous iterations in the franchise did. There's not even that much variation in like the seasonal activities that you can do, so it really does feel like you're paying all that money for the holidays and then for the worlds around you to change so it actually feels as if time is moving. We don't need bans. The townie AI is too bad for all that. Sims can barely sit down, let alone play instruments in sync. Don't break my heart like this, please. I want bands so desperately. I want way more instruments. I think that we could have like a proper dedicated singer career because the base game one is awful. I honestly don't think like the AI would be too bad for that. I don't really understand that because I do think that the AI works well when you're in like a club together. So I think if they could maybe somehow take like the club system and like integrate it into bands, I definitely think that bands could work even with the townie AI. And we've already seen like townies interacting on stage with that little like festival event that they did a couple of summers ago with the Sims in Session concerts. I need bands in The Sims 4 and that's a hill that I will die on. Let my Sims have joy in their lives. Let them listen to live music. Let them have an experience. I miss kids being sent to military school. It's such a classic silly Sims thing that instilled such fear within me that my kids were always A+ students. I could not agree with this one more. Even just reading that, it just takes me back to the time where I was terrified that my Sims were gonna get sent to military school or away to just like boarding school. And I do feel like The Sims 4 sometimes takes takes itself too seriously. It just misses some of that like silly goofiness and unseriousness that past Sims games had. I know that that's probably not going to be for everyone. I know that not everyone is going to enjoy that. That's why I always say I think options are always best. I like when things like this are opt out, so it doesn't feel like the game is like playing you as the player because you kind of want to be in control. I don't even think I've ever had a child taken away from me in The Sims 4. Maybe that's just because I'm a fully grown adult now and I'm way better at taking care of my Sims than I was when I was back playing The Sims 1 with like a baby that would never age and never stop crying. After like 3 days, I was like, yeah, you know what? Fair and valid, take it away. When I talk about The Sims 4 lacking consequence, these are just the type of things that I mean. Like, there doesn't really seem to be a lot of stuff within the game that's like, you as a player have made all of these bad choices, and that is what has led your sim to this moment. Like, congratulations, you've ruined their life. Too many people are worried about custom content aesthetics in other people's games. Oh my god, this is so scary, it looks realistic. This should be in Invu or Second Life. How about you focus on your screen then, just don't look. Full stop, there you go. Why? Why do people care what other people are doing within their games? Like, if they're creating a sim and they like the way that that sim looks, okay. As long as they're not posting it and trying to tear down other people or be homophobic, racist, Islamophobic, any of that kind of stuff, and they're not hurting people in the process of sharing their game, then why do we care? I have never understood the like arguing, the calling out, the rudeness that people have towards custom content. It personally feels like it's seeded in a bunch of other views that I really don't like. My mum said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. And I live by that, because why would I comment on something that I don't like? Like, that's just gonna bring me down. I know that's just gonna bring the person down who's reading it. So why would I even bother? There's been some great additions for gender, sexuality, inclusion, but I still think there's more to be done. The current attraction settings aren't really inclusive to non-binary Sims, and would love for Sims just to be able to transition in-game live mode rather than just create a sim. Now, there are mods that actually can achieve this, but I know not everyone can play with custom content. However, I just did a video going over gender and orientation overhaul by Lumpino, so if that is of interest to you, I will link the video down below. I definitely would still love to see some things change when it comes to gender and sexuality inclusion. Having pronouns like freely available in a Sim's profile is really important to me personally. I think being able to actually ask a sim for their pronouns or tell a sim your pronouns just in live mode would be great. I would definitely love to hear your thoughts on the non-binary aspect of this though, because I have had these conversations with my community and we're kind of trying to think like, what would you prefer that non-binary to be called? Some people have said gender non-conforming because not everyone who is gender non-conforming is non-binary. I'm a cis woman, so I know that I do not have the power to speak on this, which is why I kind of want to open it up to you lot, because I know that there are a lot of LGBTQ plus people within my community and I would just like to hear your experience. I miss the story mode. I wish we still had that and then free play separate. Also would like more Sim story games like Herbs and Castaway. The pack/DLCs just don't give the same vibes. This is interesting because I feel like a lot of people were very happy that The Sims 4 on console was basically a direct port of the PC version. Like, it is practically the same game because then it feels like console players are getting the full experience. But are people missing the Sim stories like type dealio? Because I personally have played like Castaway, and I played these a lot when I was younger because we had consoles in the household. So I was playing on my DS, I was playing on my Game Boy, and I was playing on the PlayStation. I never really liked those Sim stories, and I think that's because I predominantly played Sims on my PC. Like, that's where I was used to playing it. That's where I played The Sims 1. That's where I got to tell stories in this sandbox game, which is what Sims has always been to me. So whenever I got on those games, I was like, I don't like how it's telling me to tell this story. Like, that's not the story I want to tell, and I actually really struggled to go into those games. But do people still have nostalgia for those story-like games and spin-offs the same way that I do about like original Sims? Also, this feels like a great point to mention. The Switch 2 may potentially be coming out next year. EA, I've been asking for it since the beginning of time, but if you want to take My Sims Racing, any of the My Sims franchise and like direct port that over to Switch, just know you could get a few extra simoleons from you girly. I not only miss open world of The Sims 3, but also the maps that had so many different types of topography. I would like to build on a steep side of a mountain again. Now, I, as a self-proclaimed not builder, don't really understand the need for this, but I get it. Like, I've never actually thought about it as someone who doesn't really build, but I guess it does probably feel really weird to even still play around with terrain tools in The Sims 4. While that allows you to change the terrain on that current plot of land that you are building on, and like you can find ways to use it to actually get it into your build, a lot of the time it probably looks so different from the rest of the area that you probably don't use it to like its full capacity because you're just like, well, this doesn't fit in. Build, buy, and create a sim are complementary to a Sims game, not a game style. I don't understand how they got so much attention in a life simulator game, even more than the gameplay itself. This I do not agree with in the slightest. They are absolutely a game style. There are people who spend hours upon hours in create a sim, like creating the most gorgeous, unique, individual, never been done before, never the same Sims that you have ever seen in your life. The same goes for build and buy mode. They are absolutely a game style. Some people prefer building, some people prefer just creating Sims. Some people don't even ever step into live mode, which I think is fair and valid. Like, they've paid the money, they can play the game however they want. Again, as long as it's not hurting anyone, why do we care? I don't know if you meant this as maybe they're getting more of a look in when it comes to actual like production and how the team are actually working on this game, which, yeah, not all of the gameplay I love about The Sims 4, but I think it's unfair to say that they're not a game style and that they don't deserve attention or like love from simmers, because I don't view anyone who maybe just spends all of their time in create a sim as any less of a simmer than someone who spends like 98% of their time in live mode. I don't see why we need cars in The Sims 4. I mean, yes, it'd be awesome to teach teenagers to drive or to drive to work or other places. Other than that, I don't see the vision having it here since the game is a wreck. This was way more popular than I thought it was going to be. I feel like it's so funny to watch the Sims community go through such trends. I feel like a couple of years ago, literally everyone and their mother was asking for cars. Now it feels like the majority of players are like, we don't want cars. It would be a waste of money. It would be a waste of time. Like, we don't care about cars. I personally would really like to see cars in my game. And some people say it's not an open world, so why do you want cars? Sims 2 wasn't an open world. Sue me, but The Sims 2, a car pulled up, you got in the car, it drove off, and then you went through a loading screen to travel. But that's not the reason I want cars. I think a car like game pack could be so cool. I think they could create a mechanic career. I think that could be like a part-time career. Maybe Sims like bring their cars to your house or to a garage that you have created, and then you fix up their cars and like you have to run diagnostics, kind of like the vets. Yes, teaching teenagers to drive cars. I absolutely love that in The Sims 3 Generations. I personally don't think you need open world to do that. You can just take your teenagers maybe to like a DVLA car park or industrial park and you learn to drive on like quieter roads, or maybe just like in car parks you do a lot of like the parking positions and things of that nature. Not super realistic, but definitely works within the realm of The Sims 4. I think cars are such a hobby in the game, which is why I personally want them. I love being able to like upgrade a car to make it look better, or maybe have like a better sound system. I can imagine so many of my teenagers or like young adults being into that. Maybe you can have your own business where you buy fixer-upper cars and then you sell them off for like a much higher price. My brother personally used to do that like back in the day over on eBay and Auto Trader. I don't really know a lot of the breeds of cars, but I know I support the breed of my car, and I do think it's an interesting hobby for my Sims to have, and I'm always down for more hobbies. Say it with me. There are not enough lots. I'm constantly constantly having to choose between families on who gets a home. This is such an interesting take to me because I, as a player, have so many saves. It's actually disgusting how many times I click like new save, even in a day. For people who play rotationally, or maybe you've just had a save file like in your game for ages and you constantly just like add new families into it, even though worlds have been getting like smaller and smaller, and there's definitely been things like missing in worlds, I've never looked at the game and thought there aren't enough lots. Like for me, there are more than enough. What differs for me is the fact that I don't feel like I have enough lots to create like homes and have families living on them, but it's sometimes I like look at things and I'm like, I don't have enough lots for the kind of different community things that I want. Like I would love it if we could have enough lots to have every single kind of community lot within the game alongside like household livable houses. So I kind of get what you're saying. I think it's just a different playstyle. If I purchase a pack on PlayStation, why am I not able to play it anywhere else? I paid for it, it's digital. Fully agree with this one. I think this should be a thing. Logistically, it probably comes down to the fact that if you buy on PlayStation, that money, I don't know how these things work, but probably a portion of it goes to like Sony because you bought it on like the PlayStation storefront, and then portions of it goes to like EA. I don't know. I assume that's how video games work, but it's digital. And I do actually believe that if you purchase a pack, say if you purchased it on the EA app, you at a later date, if you go out and buy like an Xbox or a PlayStation, it's so bizarre to me that you have to re-buy every single DLC on those platforms. And I know that works for a lot of other games. Trust me, I have Stardew Valley on probably almost every single platform that I own. But the thing is, Stardew is a full completed game. There's not like DLC for it. It's not over $1,000 to buy like the full encompassing experience of Stardew Valley. Like I'm all down for giving my money and support to games that I actually like believe in and like want to play. However, asking for over $1,000 to get the exact same experience on a different platform when you've already paid for it is extremely cheeky to me. And I know logistically this could probably never work, but oh my word, I wish they could like strike a deal. Because right now it also doesn't even feel like I own the game because it's digital. If those things go kaput, that's it. Bye-bye to my video games. Annoying. I want mini games. I think it would be so cool if when your sim started cooking, there was an option to do a little cooking mama type mini game. When they practice instruments, it could be a mini rhythm game, and love watching my sims do stuff, but sometimes I want to participate. Again, I could not agree more. I have wanted this for a really long time now. I think mini games in The Sims would be so sick, especially as like players who maybe have been playing this game since its release. Like, yeah, it's all fun and like well to like watch your sim do the same thing over and over again, but sometimes you want to join in. I know I literally just talked Sims 2 under the rug for this about the fact that if you travel to a community lot, time stops. I wouldn't mind, I don't think, like time stopping during a mini game, or maybe just like adding like an hour, half an hour, so it doesn't really feel like you're missing too much of like your other Sims lives whilst you're in these mini games. I was that girly in Tony Hawk's Underground who, in the Vancouver place, I was going to that underground ice hockey pitch. I was kicking that puck around. Me and my niece were playing ice hockey on a skateboard, and I miss the era of having mini games within games. Life is Strange did it really, really well. I'd love a theme park expansion pack, like a mashup of Sims and Roller Coaster Tycoon, where you can build rides, run the park, have your sim visit on dates and stuff. I am firmly against a theme pack. I'm sorry. I played The Sims 3 Roaring Heights. I love the like mini coaster in Making Magic. However, I don't want to be a theme park designer. I just don't think anything that The Sims could do as an expansion, it's not going to be as in-depth as Roller Coaster Tycoon. I'm sorry, just to break the news to you right now, it's not going to be Planet Coaster. Maybe you're a master builder, maybe you could get it looking really, really good. But then my worry is, if you get it looking really, really good, is it actually going to play in The Sims 4? Like, is that actually going to work within the game? I love the idea of like more fairs and festivals and fairgrounds. And I wish that we had like more arcade games and carnival type games. I love all of those things. I just don't want it in a theme park pack. The Sims 4 is far too limited to do both theme parks and and safaris in the way that people want them to be able to do that when they ask for an expansion pack. I think packs like My First Pet stuff should exist. There's so much more to explore in packs we already have, and since there hasn't been a pack refresh in so long, and it probably won't happen again, I wouldn't be opposed to DLC for DLC. I'm talking a stuff pack with an extra career for get to work, a pack that gives us an extra neighborhood and apartments for city living, pigs and donkeys for cottage living. Some of these packs have been out for so long that I wouldn't mind a little extra stuff for the price of a stuff pack. So we're saying what? A stuff pack is about $9.99 in the UK. I think it's the same price in America right now. I know I'm not including everyone in that. Like, everyone's currency is different, and also so is the national wage and like income of people. It's all in relation to your currency and how your currency actually works in your game. So I'm not saying that that should be the definitive price. This is so interesting to hear, because obviously when My First Pet stuff came out, everyone was like, this is just additional content. This felt like it should have just been in Cats and Dogs, which a lot of the furniture I absolutely agree with. It was just like secondary to Cats and Dogs, and really just felt like they were like, oh, we've hit the criteria for what we need in Cats and Dogs of objects. Let's just use these leftover stuff in another like DLC for DLC. Honestly, quite like the gameplay that came with My First Pet stuff. I don't think it should have been a pack. I think it should have been included in Cats and Dogs. I still firmly believe that all of that should have just been one pack. But what do you think about having DLC for DLC? I do think people would call this a cash grab. I definitely don't think a majority of the Sims community would be a fan of this. I don't know how I feel about it. I think asking for extra money is cheeky, but then again, I would like the extra content, you know? So it's like, whether you want to pay that money to then expand upon a pack that you already have, that you've already played, you've already tested, you already know you like the gameplay, and then it's like, okay, so do you want these extra things to kind of like fulfill that pack a little bit more? It's not too similar to Cats and Dogs, because it's not coming out straight away afterwards. That's like a good 9 years between like Get to Work and then this proposed stuff pack additional extra. Wild take, wild to see after so many people did not like My First Pet stuff. Sims 3 Store was better value for money than game packs and kits. Now, I had to do a little bit of research for this one. I'm on the Sims 3 Store, and right now I'm looking at the World of Wonder Carousel collection. It comes with a couple of different items like awnings and bushes and posters, mainly curtains though, I'm not gonna lie, a candy floss and a popcorn maker, and a carousel. It's worth 1,900 sim points, which is about $18 to $19. That would probably be about 15 to 16 Great British pounds. Whereas right now, a game pack for The Sims 4 is $17.99, so £18. I personally cannot agree with this. I do not think The Sims 3 Store was a better value. I mean, to be fair, I feel like sometimes the price of a kit where you get like, what, 15 to 20 items could have got you maybe like 5 items on The Sims 3 Store. I definitely don't believe that The Sims 3 Store was ever known for having good deals. Like, every so often, I feel like there maybe could have been discounts on Worlds. Worlds were probably the one thing where I was like, I will freely purchase this content with like this amount of money. They were usually, I want to say, about $25 to $30 for a new world. And that's the only case where I can support this, where it's like, it was an okay like value. The Parenthood game pack is severely overrated and is one of the worst game packs. So we are on the game pack hate train. Choo choo. Honestly, I think a lot of the hatred for Parenthood comes from the fact that Simmers really wanted a Generations and Parenthood kind of wasn't it. I don't believe Parenthood is the strongest game pack. It's definitely not one of my favorites, and I am a family player. I enjoy playing as a family. I like the parenting skill. I do like the further how you get into it, then the more options you get to be a parent. I think grounding is like really necessary within my game. So again, I would probably pick pick it up at some point. But if I were like buying the game like nowadays, I think I would probably wait for a sale to pick up Parenthood. I also don't know if it's considered overrated. Like, I think if you're a strong family player, then you can definitely enjoy this pack and like get the most out of it. But I feel like most players are very like, it's there. I think it's rated exactly where it deserves to be. Bella Goth isn't nearly as interesting as everyone makes her out to be. Sims community, drop the pitchforks, do not come for this person. I mean, she's just a bit iconic, isn't it? I fear it's the red dress. I just love a bit of Bella Goth. I definitely don't think she's like the most intriguing character. Like, I love the mystery of like Bella going missing. I love that lore that she had. I love how it's kind of this thing in the community that everyone kind of knows and everyone's got their own like suspicions about it, and it's been there since like Sims 2. I just think the Goths are an iconic family because they've been there from the very beginning and they've been in every single like staple of the franchise. I didn't think anyone would ever come for Bella Goth's neck. What did she do to you? There we have it. Those are all of your unpopular opinions. Honestly, really interesting ones this time around. It's been so many years since I recorded one of these, and I didn't want to focus on topics that I've like spoken about a lot. I also didn't want to just be like, this pack is bad, because that's an opinion that like anyone can have. Like, I have favorite packs that people don't enjoy. I have least favorite packs that people really enjoy. But these really opened up my eyes to kind of a lot of criticisms, and I think like valid criticisms on the Sims franchise, and currently especially like The Sims 4. Not in a we hate The Sims 4 way, it's flat, it's boring, all those things that we've probably read or felt about The Sims 4 at some point, but like real valid, like, you know what, I don't like this about the game and I wish this would change. And I just think it's really interesting to see people's different perspectives depending on like how they play. I would love to continue these conversations that we have had down in the comments down below. I would also love to hear your unpopular opinions down there. Also, if you disagreed with any of these with me, that's okay. We don't all have to like the same things, and that's absolutely fine. Thanks for submitting all of these and getting my like cogs turning. I feel like my brain has switched on. Positive aura has been gained from these opinions. I appreciate you all so much, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.